Hey, this is Ian Crim6 Porter, and you're listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
What is up, everybody? Hello and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. It's episode 221. It's coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date is March 15th, 2020. The time is 6:39 p.m. Central Standard Time. And this just might be the best episode ever. We have more Corona updates for you as your number one Corona news update podcast, so we'll touch on that. Also got some Yikes of the Week. Flashpoint started, so we will give our first impressions there. And we have a special guest on the show, Nate, co-founder of Ultimate Media Ventures. We've had him on the show before, but they just stroked that new deal with the Call of Duty League, so he came on the show, talk a little bit about that, and just the memories of some fun times there. So we'll get to that later. But first, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Our website, tcr.gg, it's got all the links there for you, including our Discord and YouTube, everything like that. Everything you'll need to know to get a part of the conversation. As for me, my name is Tim. Hello. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, though, as always, he's my best friend, my brown friend. He even has it on his hoodie right now if you're watching on stream. It's Anuj. What's up?
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good.
Or should I say, you are not my brother, my friend.
You are my
No,
friend.
Wait, we say you are not. Because you are my brother, my friend.
Yep.
I don't
Wearing
know. He's so
the
good.
Pasha
I love
biceps
Pasha.
hoodie.
I miss him so much. Just that whole VP squad.
Yeah, that was a time in Counter-Strike. It was just when I think good old days, right? When Fnatic was still Fnatic, and I mean, yes, they're good, but I mean that team, right?
Yeah.
You had that team. When you think of Fnatic, you think of that team. When you think of VP, you think of that team. SK Gaming before MIBR got into the mix, and even back then was Luminosity, right?
Yeah.
Those were the golden days. NiP was relevant. Cloud9 was relevant. Those were the days, man. Those were the days. But maybe we'll get back to it with a little bit of Flashpoint. We'll get to that in a second. But let's update everyone here on the coronavirus, or what's the actual word for it? COVID?
COVID-19.
Sounds a lot cooler.
Coronavirus sounds pretty cool too, though.
It does, but COVID-19 sounds like it should be like some top secret government mission. Which maybe it is.
Good hashtag.
Maybe it's what the Chinese government thought of when they thought to release it on their people. That's what I'm told. My father-in-law said someone at the store, I forget what store, but my father-in-law said someone told him that it was the Chinese government.
If we walked into your father-in-law's house right now, would it be safe to say Fox News is running in the background?
Oh, God, no.
No.
Very anti
okay.
that. Very.
Okay.
In fact, it makes when I first started dating my now wife, on my way home. So we helped her move out of Austin because she was going to UT at the time. But she was still staying there. So I ended up driving to Austin with my wife, at the time girlfriend, like very early on. And then on the way home, though, I went home with her parents because she was staying there to finish off the semester. And my father-in-law, who, keep in mind, haven't really spoken to him with a whole lot, just asked me out of the blue, so what do you think of George Bush? I was like,
There we go.
Okay.
What do you think of George
Right.
Bush?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was like. Yeah, he seems like a nice guy.
Was Morgan giving you a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Like any sort of like, hey, this is the route you should go right now?
I mean, she wasn't in the car. It was just me.
Oh, it was just y'all
I
two.
was flying solo. It was so yeah, no, definitely. I don't think he believes the Chinese conspiracy, but you know, with this coronavirus thing, you hear a million different things of how it started and all that. So I guess one of them has to be true. Why not the Chinese government one? But it has gotten out of hand even since the last time we recorded. So many things were starting. I felt like the dominoes were starting to fall when we last recorded, because I think it was like right before we went live, the NBA announced they were shutting it down, and now sports is just dead. All sports, all traditional sports have stopped. The only thing that I think is still going on is the UFC announced that they're not stopping. Very weird power play on their part.
Pretty close contact sport, I would say there, you know,
Like, I want to know, I didn't care enough to open up and read the article, but I just want to know why. Like, hey, UFC, why? How come everyone else has decided we should probably pump the brakes, and then UFC is like, no, we have different information.
we're good. We're good. The CDC doesn't know.
Yeah, we have our own guys looking into it. Don't worry.
You know, it's funny because I was talking to some of my friends about this, and it was like, because we follow esports so closely here in the West, as you know, some of our listeners may not be from the US, like the virus has really just started to become a big deal over the last, I would say, week, really.
Yeah.
Week and a half. You know, Seattle got affected early on, and now it's kind of, you know, spreading.
Apart from that, it was in the news, much like the Australian fires.
Well, and we were getting updates about like what's going on in Italy or what's going on in China, but it really didn't affect us too much here in the US until about a week and a half ago. And Tim and I, you know, as we're following esports, we've been talking about it for like 2.5 weeks. And so I don't feel like for us, we kind of always knew it was a big deal, right? Because we saw Katowice was kind of the first really big event that was like, hey, we can't do this because of coronavirus. And now we've kind of seen it sweep over here, and that it's becoming a shock to so many of my friends and family members. Like, oh my gosh, like what is this? How is it coming? It's like, man, I feel like I've known about. Like I had some inside information that maybe you know no one was sharing, but it's crazy because it's affected you know every type of sport. Even though you know we say like esports is the one that can kind of continue on, which is true to a certain extent. It's definitely had its fair share of hits across the board, and it continues on this week.
And it's how is it hitting it, right? Like, yeah, most of what has happened can still go on, right? Schedules have changed and travel plans have changed, but they can run events online. They can run events in a closed studio, and if none of the players have it, then you're good, right? Just everyone don't touch anything and we're good.
Yeah.
But the thing that people I think are not bringing up as much to how this is still affecting esports is from a fan's perspective, everything's gravy, right? All is good. But from an economic standpoint, I mean, it's just like we always talk about, it's hard to make money in esports. Well, some of these events are the only way these guys make money. So when you're taking away events like Katowice, we just got the email this week, Anuj, from Riot that LCS is shutting down. Yeah. Rocket League shut down. All the Call of Duty events are now moving to an online venue or online matches, right? Pretty much everything that we discussed last episode. Like, oh, they haven't said anything about this. Check them off. They're gone. The ESL 1 major was canceled days before it was supposed to start for Dota. I mean, days before. And now the reason this was the case, because a lot of players were already in town for it, is because obviously Trump announced the travel ban, like to and from Europe, and obviously a lot of the players are from Europe, so it's like, hey, we could start this tournament, but we won't be able to finish it. So they just are postponing it, rescheduling it, canceling it, whatever may be the outcome there. But that's a lot of money that is being lost now in this esports world where it's like these tournaments, these orgs kind of rely on it to then pay their players, right? We already hear again how it's so hard to turn a profit in esports and some of these scenes, and when you're taking this away, like that's where it can really, I think
Call of
maybe see
Duty is
this trickle
it's
down.
completely canceled, right? Like it's the rest of the season. Have they announced that, or is it just for the
March
next
through
like?
April events, I believe, was for Call of
Okay, so
Duty.
it'll continue on, assuming if things were to
I
get
mean, yeah,
better.
who knows, right?
Yeah,
People
but they
keep
didn't. They
saying,
didn't cancel the season, right? They just canceled the next few months, is what it looks
yeah, and it
like
will
from
be
the news.
online, so
So
the matches will still
Dallas
be
should pick
played.
up some points here.
Yeah, and
pretty soon.
Overwatch League has announced that they have canceled events, but they're being played this weekend. Like they've, like in a week. Like they're picking up some matches. I believe they're going to be in the studio or online, something like that.
Yeah, for again, we talked about it last week. The importance that Overwatch League has going on this year, and for Call of Duty just being the inaugural season, obviously a huge bummer for all the locations that aren't going to get in. That affects us, directly. Obviously, we were excited to go to the
Yeah.
Dallas event, and
Our
that's
March
gone,
and April
so
just opened up though.
it really did. But I mean, it's not like we could go anywhere to other events. There's no
No.
other events going on anywhere. So
Oh, NASCAR still hasn't canceled Texas, son.
DreamHack hasn't been canceled yet either.
It is the last. Like I just imagine all these events are just on a war zone, and coronavirus is just taking them out. And then on the top of the hill is the last remaining soldier, and it's DreamHack Dallas, just staying strong.
It's got an LMG with a bipod, and he's just posted up.
Just not
spraying.
giving up, just holding on to the Alamo, because it's not. So that's not till Memorial Day weekend, DreamHack Dallas, which obviously we have personal interest in, given the fact that we live in Dallas, we go to it ever since it's been in Austin, we have gone. So it is really our kind of one trip a year that, like, no excuse, we go to it. So I'm really hoping things are settled down by then and they don't cancel it, and I don't have to worry about getting it. Like if things are still like they are today, but then they're like what would you do if things are like it is today, but they still don't cancel? Would you be like,
got a pregnant wife at home, can't chance that?
see,
It has to be like significantly better, honestly, for me to like, as much as I do want to go, like most sane people, I also don't want to get infected with it, ideally, regardless of my age. And the age stuff was all speculation of how it affects you if you're younger, 40. It all depends on your health and all that, blah blah blah. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't chance it. I wouldn't be going to events right now if events were still active. Like if we had the Frisco event coming up for, what was it, League of Legends.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I would have loved to go to a league event. I haven't been to one. That's definitely something that we want to do. But yeah, I mean, I'm not making enough, unfortunately, to be like, yeah, let's risk our lives potentially. It's not you that I'm worried about. It's the 1,500, 2,000, 3,500 other people, that are at some of these events that, it can move quick. So you see what's happening in Italy. There's a reason that all these events are now being, canceled. It's dangerous. And so we have seen one area resume, Tim, which is in League of Legends. There were some matches going on in China. Now, it wasn't through Riot, I don't believe, but they like resumed in China, and like the players and casters were wearing masks like during the game. And so
if you have to go to that extent, just cancel.
yeah, you think so?
Like if I have to be wearing gloves and everything while playing, just let's call it quits. Let's pick this up in a month or two. I don't know.
Yeah,
I would be torn because I know, and here's the shitty thing is, because if they don't cancel DreamHack Dallas, but they leave it up to you to go or not, you're not getting that refund. You know what I'm saying? And so,
yeah, not if it's like so
if
the good thing is the hotel's refundable. It's just the DreamHack ticket,
right?
That's unfortunately not.
Which I guess in the grand scheme of things, what, $110 is
the cheap part,
right?
Yeah,
but it would still suck. It would still suck.
We saw
I still want to go.
Nerd Street just announced that they've closed all their local host facilities. Those are obviously being LAN center type facilities where people can go and play, and they host events at some of them, and they've closed down. So I mean, we're seeing like even these smaller type setups close down. Like it's not like a local host is going to have 2,500 people there. It's a much smaller venue, and so it's one of those things where we're seeing it across the board. May is a little bit away.
I'm still holding out hope.
And one cool thing that happened, Tim, was like all the I don't know if you've seen this, but like all these NBA players and stuff have come out and started asking to like, hey, help me get set up with streaming, and we've seen I think
Yeah.
who was it? It was Luca here locally was playing Devin Booker and they recreated the match, the game that was supposed to happen live, Dallas versus Phoenix.
I
Of course,
saw that. I
Luca dropped
know
50.
NASCAR is doing it with like the iRacing and everything
Yeah.
there. So they're doing, I think F1 also did a simulated race online for it. So
That's pretty cool.
they're
I
still
mean,
having, they're
it's
finding ways to have fun in a bad situation.
even though like gaming or esports has been affected, like gaming as a whole, this is like kind of a big win in a lot of ways for games. Like look at that this isn't e news, but we could just bring it up now. Warzone, Warzone hit like 15 million players already, and it's like what day 4 or 5, since the game's release, and they were hitting 15 million, and you have all these celebrities and athletes streaming, and it's been
CSGO
like
for the
really,
first time ever
yeah.
broke 1 million concurrent players.
Thanks, Corona. Like that's
So,
crazy.
I
That
mean,
is like
everyone's at home doing nothing but gaming.
a 20-year-old game is breaking its all-time high record, which is insane. So it's definitely been a positive for gaming as a whole. Obviously, the whole situation is a negative, but I'm talking about people's eyes being on gaming. Again, celebrities and athletes getting involved in the streaming side. Like that's all at least a positive that's coming from it, right? Like we're making there's all these negatives around it. There's little wins here and there that you got to find and enjoy, and so cool to see these guys being involved.
Yeah, and I'll say one thing because I can't let things go. Obviously, we posted that joke on Twitter about our statement saying how this will be the one podcast that doesn't shut down because there are podcasts out there, believe it or not, that are taking a break because of the coronavirus because there's not enough events to talk about. And we got some people say, "Hey, it's a serious situation. Maybe you shouldn't joke about it." We know it's a serious situation. Like, Anuja's wife is pregnant. I have a 6-month-old at home. My wife, who was sick, she was running a fever, had to go to the doctor just because you never know. Ends up being strep throat, so not a big deal. Which we were laughing because not a whole lot of times in life are you like, oh, thank God I have strep throat. But this is one of them. So, yeah, we get that it's a big deal. And yes, we do take it serious. Even though we're joking about the coronavirus, folks. Don't be like, Tim and Anuj don't seem too worried about it. They'll still go to DreamHack Dallas. It should be fine. Like, let's not use us for your meter of is it a big deal or not when it comes to viruses.
No, there's many more intelligent people that you should be listening to advise you on whether you should be going to events or just areas with people there in general. Again, we're lightening the mood, trying to have
It's just
fun
how
with
it
it.
is.
It's what we do.
If you
and
want to listen
so
to a show without personality, go listen to ESPN or something. We're gonna joke a little bit about it. All right, we're gonna have some fun with it. Gonna have some fun. That's all. That's all we gotta do. Speaking of fun, let's get to one of my favorite segments that we do here. It's called Yikes of the Week. It's where we go over the biggest moments from last week that made you just go yikes. Anuj, let's start with yours because I saw it, but I honestly don't know what it is.
yes, it's been happening for a while. So ideally, we like to target things that are like super recent. It's an ongoing thing that's been going on that's just getting annoying more than anything, Tim. And that is the fake streamers. And this is a Twitch problem. So the yikes is towards Twitch, but this is the fake streamers that are allowed to be on the platform under primarily, from what I've seen, the CSGO section. There's always a fake bot simple stream going on or a Shroud one, and they're selling skins on there. They're replaying gameplay of, in Simple's case, like his FPL matches. They kind of run them on a loop and have them play. And so they're usually the number 1 through 5 viewed stream on Twitch whenever they are live. And they're up for hours at a time. It's not like these things are getting banned. The algorithm is not catching it for whatever reason, and they're allowed to stay up. And it's scamming people out of money that are just don't know any better for more than anything. Whether it be kids or whatever, doing giveaways on these channels that they're doing and having you pay or subscribe or whatever to be involved. And so, it's a big yikes, and I just don't feel like how do you not notice that, right? Like one of your
So,
top
What are the names
games
then?
on
Like,
Twitch.
like so if it was a simple, what is the name on
They
there?
titled the stream "Simple FPL something something," simple FPL giveaway or Shroud, FPL. Saying they generally do it with the player name,
Giveaway.
what they're playing in some sort of giveaway, and then they spike up to a couple thousand viewers, and it stays pretty busy. Like they really dominate. We've seen, like, I think Get Right. We've seen a handful of players really come out and mention it recently, that they were annoyed by the fact that they're continuously up there. I've seen it for months now, though, and it's irritating. Hopefully, it's addressed. But a big yikes to not be able to handle that. Even if your algorithm's not picking it up, there's got to be individual moderators that are kind of filtering through, looking for fake streams, looking for people streaming. Whether it
Twitch
be
mods are way
fights
too
and
busy
stuff that
watching
are,
titty streams. They're not
well,
looking at.
when fights come up, for example, an MMA fight or a UFC fight, dude, fake streams get busted every 15 minutes. They're catching them, they're finding them in different sections, they're finding them. I don't know how you don't do it for one of your largest, you know, Twitch has so much viewership coming through Counter Strike. It's like, I mean, I might not be number one game consistently, but has been a number of times, and so just surprising that they don't catch that and fix it.
There's a lot of things that Twitch does that I ask why, and that can be certainly on the top of the list as far as one of them. Yeah, because I saw people complaining about it. I think it was Get Right tweeted out saying like they got to get a hold of this. So it is kind of shitty that it's almost like we're getting back to it, right? It seems like every time we get away from the whole trading scandals in CS:GO, Valve will do something to help combat it, but then like the scammers will find a way to still scam people, and then it starts another craze, and it's going to have another website where you scam people out of, and then those people will create a YouTube apology, and everyone will forget about it, and they'll still be millionaires even though they just scammed millions of dollars away from people. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to keep an eye out for it then, because like I said, I see people complaining about it all the time on Twitch. But
Yeah, if you see a Simple or a Shroud stream up on Twitch, it's probably going to be a fake one.
so that's a yikes there. My yikes of the week, and actually a listener pointed this out to me on our Discord, but it comes from the Renegades, and I'm no longer going to say my Detroit Renegades because pretty sure they ditched that title a while ago. I don't think, like, even on their website, I don't think Detroit's any part of it. I think now they are just Renegades. Yeah. Might be for the best, though. Okay, City of Detroit has been through enough. They don't need the Renegades tarnishing what is a reviving city, because this has always been kind of a well-known secret that the Renegades team house and just their background from like their leadership is kind of a shit show. Because it was, I forget her name, but the League of Legends player that recently passed away who played for Renegades, Richard Lewis's roommate.
Yeah.
That was a blown out story that was talked about. And now, Anuj, we get it again. This is the title of the article on .esports. Boob streamers, insults, late payments, toxic environment at Renegades led to staff walkout.
Staff walkout?
Yeah, so it's gotten to that point now where staff members are walking out of the team, stating that it's basically coming down to the CEO, Chris Romea, is how I'm going to say his name, is basically like he creates a awful working environment. The alleged Romea has created a hostile work environment, verbally abused employees, and on multiple occasions made late payments or missed payments entirely. These allegations were also reported in a story on win.gg. So we're seeing multiple stories of this. So, and again, we've seen this kind of talked in the shadows about Renegades to where, and even like we've had some people reach out to us. Anytime we bring up Renegades, they're like, oh yeah. I kind of know about this in the background. Definitely a shady company, right? Like definitely shady people to work with. So let me see here. It says here in the recording, a staffer confronted Romea over his behavior on corporate social media accounts. The CEO allegedly used the accounts, especially on Instagram, to engage with attractive women under the pretext of recruiting them to work for the company. All
So
right.
he is
Using
putting
the
himself out there.
Yeah, slide into their DMs with the corporate account. I get that. I get that. We do that all the time with our TCR Instagram. All the time.
How do you think we've got so many interviews lined up recently?
That's right. That's right. That's right. So my yikes of the week again. It goes out to the Renegades just for yet again. I don't know how long this org is going to stay afloat. I feel like they're
just kind of hearing one thing after another with them, and this is that whole trickle down effect. And
yeah.
once you lose your staff, what are you anyway? Like how are you going to run a business? How are you going to run a company? How are you going to recruit players? How are you going to attract players? So they're writing their own death note right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just we've seen so many, orgs much bigger than Renegades all of a sudden vanish out of thin air, right? So you guys, Denial, that was a bigger org at the time that got busted for not paying players and everything like that. You have Echo Fox. Hell, that was one of the
an org
biggest.
that's vanished, right? And you're talking about an org that had a League of Legends slot, like one of the bigger. That's one of the bigger blunders. Maybe we should do like an all-time blunders show. We should write that down for orgs. But yeah, Renegades is definitely finding their way on this list quickly.
Yeah, and like Ginger Slayer asked in chat, does Monte Cristo have any hold of that? No, he was early on founder of them, but he's separated from them a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I don't even think, because then it was like the basketball player, which is why it moved to Detroit. And I don't know how many ties he has to it right now, either. But like I said, every time they come up, it's never for like a good reason. It's always something going on in the background of their CEO or something not happening that you normally want to see with an org. So I think if I had to put my money down for next org to fold, Renegades would have to be up on the list.
Throwing some odds out there?
Yeah, I would have to say Renegades would be pretty high on that list. This is never good when you show up on Yikes of the Week, that's for sure. Let's see here. Oh, the Flashpoint started though, Anuj, so we can get to that if you'd like. I think right now Cloud9 is still playing.
They are. That's the last match. It's in overtime right now.
All right, so they're still playing Fun plus Phoenix, so we'll know who wins that by the time
we get to the end of this. They'll be done. But yeah, we had the first rounds go off. I thought they started off in my mind with like the weakest matchups they could have, I guess, maybe because they did that because of timing. But it did start off with Mad Lions versus like Havu and Copenhagen Flames versus Contact. And I thought the viewership was actually okay to start. I think I was looking around like mid-30s in terms of
how many are watching right now with the Cloud9 team playing? Do we know?
Mid-30s again.
31. Okay, and I think that's pretty much where it's been floating. It's about 30,000, give or take.
Yeah. But kind of what we mentioned last week, like the CS has been good CS. Like I don't feel like we're seeing sloppy play. In fact, this Cloud9 Fun Plus game has been one of the more sloppy ones in general, just because Cloud9 is playing like a very pug style right now on Train, and they're winning doing it, so that's okay. But it has been one of the more sloppy matchups we've seen. It was great, I thought, Tim, to see. An interesting matchup was Dignitas, a team that has one of the biggest reputations in terms of coming from NIP over to Dignitas and so much history there, versus an organization that's not an organization. They're Orgless, right? And Orgless, I thought, did really good. Wardell and these guys, played their butts off to stay competitive. They took a map off of them. They started off great on Train. It was the first map they played. Beat them 16-8, and it was like, oh wow, like these guys, is this an ex-NIP issue, a Dignitas issue, or is Orgless playing?
And on that Train too, one of the crazy things is, well, it was Orgless's map pick first of all, but
yeah,
I almost called him NIP. Dignitas ended up taking both pistol rounds on that, and you still end up losing 16-8. Like that right there had me terrified that this Dignitas roster was not going to work out. I mean, and it's crazy thing, like after one map, like what a knee-jerk reaction by everyone, because even people on the analysts like Sean Garrison, everything was saying like, I saw some HLTV guys saying like, this is why Get Right should have retired, and Thorne made a joke about it. After one map, we were so knee jerky because we ended up looking like a bunch of idiots afterwards when they came back and smoked them in the next two.
Get Right like dominated on Inferno. He had one of the best starts we've seen him have in a long time. I think he was like 24-8 at one point on Inferno. Now it did kind of even off a little bit towards the end. He still did great overall, but it was nice to see that roster back. It was nice to see old Nip on Inferno and see Freiburg playing in Banana and this and that. I think the biggest concern coming out of week 1 is, again, a team that we both have already, I think, written off ourselves, but MIBR. They fall to Chaos 2-0. Again, Fallen looked very much outmatched in that game. He just, just didn't play well. But to see them go down 2-0 versus a team like Chaos is very surprising. They had made a last-minute roster change to drop Ben and pick up who was it? Who did they bring on? Tim, help me out here. Sick. They brought in Sick and Sick, former TSM, and former, I think, what was it?
Complexity,
Gaming, possibly, and Complexity. Yeah, like he's I think Complexity was standing in for him, but yeah, he came in and they looked good. They played well, beat them 2-0. I think that's just a really worrisome start. Now in the lower bracket, you have an Envy MIBR matchup to see who's going to help make it through the stage here. So
I feel like MIBR. I feel like they are a team that can't get out of their own way at this point. As much as when who said it? Someone said something. Was it Semler said something, and then Fallen snapped back at him on Twitter, and we were like, uh-oh.
Yeah, about how hard he thinks they're being complacent. And because they've won some championships and they're not like living in a slummy type situation, they're not playing as hard. It was like,
and then Fallen snapped back, which is, he's always so calm, cool, and collected. So whenever Fallen snaps back, I feel like that's always a sign of like, okay, maybe things are a little unhinged there. I think, although whether it's true or not, I don't think they're complacent because of the majors. I mean, look at the roster compared to the rosters during the major; it's completely different. I think that is in their heads, though. Like, I think they cannot get out of their own way when it comes to the performance, because I think that the confidence is gone. And to me, that's the bigger issue, is that they're just not playing with that same swagger that they played when they were a top 10 team.
Yeah, for sure. They got manhandled on Train. Nobody looked good on MIBR in that first matchup. I mean, absolutely got torn apart. And in fact, Steel was the driving catalyst, Steel and Smuya combined on Train. And what an odd duo to kind of say together. But former IBP player Steel and Smuya coming from Big really dominated that first matchup. But yeah, their whole game plan, the way MIBR plays now, it seems so drastically different from when they were successful, right? They were so strategic, and I love the way Fallen used to call when he was running that. They're just really a shadow image of what they were. It's not even close to the same team. And again, kind of to reiterate from what we said last week, I don't see that team rebound. I just don't see them making that comeback that a lot of us would like to hope and think. And you wonder what changes that causes long term for an org that I'm sure has a lot of money invested into the players that are on that team right now.
Yeah, I want to take a moment here to talk a little bit about Chaos and Steel, because I think people kind of forget what this guy's gone through and how he has just kind of persevered and withered the storm of his situation, right? Former iBuyPower, he had the lifetime ban where he couldn't play in any, well, I mean, he still can't play in any majors, but the ban, correct me if I'm wrong, it was never lifted. I just think other tournament organizers followed suit, and then they loosened up saying, you guys can play.
Yeah, they did lift it in that sense over the past year.
But Valve, though, because they control the majors. Valve is still saying
did not lift
no.
their ban. Yeah, they're still banned from majors. So that's where they are banned. And if you look at it, Steel is the last remaining player from that roster.
And
right?
that's exactly what I wanted to
AZK
bring
gone,
is
Brax gone, Skadoodle retired, Dazed no longer playing.
Dazed
So
was a
like,
joke. He was a fraud. Dazed is a fraud.
you know what? Like the way he came back and then just quit so abruptly because I was rooting so hard for Dazed to
That
get back in
dude
the scene.
pushed so hard to get back in the scene. He had so many people vouch for him and standing beside him, and he pretty much just said, "F y'all, I'm going home."
Like
Like this
middle
guy,
of the season,
this is
too.
too
Didn't
hard.
even finish off the year.
It's like he didn't jump right back in and didn't immediately shoot to number 1 in the world and said, "This is too hard. I'm out. Bye."
Yeah,
And he just disappeared. Maybe he
Yeah.
still streams. I would lie to you if I said I kept up with him at all. But that dude's a fraud.
no, it sucked the way he came in and just gave up so quick after so many people fought to get him back in. Now, it's his own prerogative, right? Maybe like he just didn't like the competitive side anymore, or the weight, kind of killed his hopes. But yeah, the way he walked out, it sucked because that was a really fun time in Counter Strike while these guys were banned. You got to remember, like Steel and Days used to run these they used to be called like the money tens, right? And they would pull in a bunch of like badass like ESEA players back then to come and join. And Stewie was a big part of that group. This is really how Stewie got recognized by the public, was initially through like Steel and Dazed and Mo's stream when they used to like all stream Counter-Strike. And Steel gutted it out, man. Like he waited a long time for this opportunity. There were so many teams that kind of picked him up, and as they were seeing success, knew they had to move away from him because they couldn't attend a major with him being in the lineup. And I'm happy that Chaos has like really backed him up and given him a chance to show, his IGL style and what he brings to the game and the experience. Like the person got banned from a game for like roughly 2 years and continued to play and play at a good enough level to where he's playing in one of the top 2 Counter-Strike leagues in the world. And that's a huge testament to him. You can hate on his attitude. There's a lot of negativity that you will hear from him from time to time on his stream, and he could be called toxic, but he works. He works hard, and he's worked for this opportunity. And to see his team have success in week 1 is pretty.
I also
pretty
feel
gnarly.
like since he's came back, there's been a little bit of a reality check with that too, right?
Oh, yeah,
because
for sure.
You got to understand, when these guys were banned, they were the best NA team in the world and one of the best teams in the world. So when they got banned, in their minds, they were still up there, right? Because if you all of a sudden stop playing, you're still going to think you are number 1 because no one technically has knocked you down from that. No one beat you yet. But when they all came back, that's when it was like, you saw like, uh-oh.
There's a team called Astralis here.
Yeah, like
Wow.
people have caught up to our skill level. We were number 1 when the game was newer and everything like that. But now with 1 million concurrent players, it's a bigger pond with more fishes in it, I see. So I think he's been a little bit better about the toxicity part of it, but
that was also a stream personality, I feel, to a certain extent, right? Like that's how this person had to make his living, right? Was being a streamer. He wasn't going to make it playing competitive CS. And so I think part of that was also slightly a persona while he was on stream, because although still can be toxic from time to time, he had to make it fun to watch, which it really was. So
I just love I love a feel good story in esports, and I feel like the Steel feel good story is one that gets overlooked because it really, I mean, like you said, the dude was banned for years, still can't play in a major. The fact that a team is willing to pick him up, knowing that they won't ever be able to qualify for the major, at least with him in it, is saying something, right? That is a big deal to a lot of the teams, which is why he'll never be on a, quote unquote big org. But the fact that now he's playing with Chaos in a league that, like you said, number 1 or 2, whatever argument you want to make for it, but he's in a league playing consistently, and he has that income, right? He has now made a career back into Counter-Strike with a league where he knows has stability.
Yeah, now they move on to the upper bracket finals of their group. They go against Gen G. I think a team that they could definitely play against. And Tim, this is like kind of the new Gen G, I feel like is where the Cloud9 fans should migrate, right? If you ask me, that's the roster that, and I'll tell you why. Hear
Don't
me out. I
even.
see you kind of shaking. For those of you that can't see Tim, he's got this little smirk on his face right now, and he's about to snap, I'm sure. But Gen G has automatic, right? Somebody that very well familiar. Um, Kusta, although not a former like Cloud9 guy, like could easily be adopted by the C9 fans, the Asian persuasion duo there with him and automatic.
I mean, he
Obviously,
was on Cloud 9 for like the 3 months
a
they
brief
didn't
minute,
play,
yeah, like a
right?
brief moment there. Sam is a up and coming young, really talented player. And then the other two, Daps obviously just goes back a long time in the scene, and Bintet, well, Bintet's kind of on the Cloud9 version of the Chinese team when he was there with Tai Lu, being their most popular team. And so they're an exciting team to watch, and they again looked good in their first matchup. I think their first matchup to me is a little tainted just because Envy had to play with their coach. They didn't have a chance to play with Moose in the lineup.
And that's
Although
because of the
Legia,
travel issue, right?
well, yeah, it's a Canadian visa issue for him, and so I don't know if it has to do with the travel ban necessarily.
I
We got
don't
to watch out
know
for Canadians anyway. Like
because I
those,
know I know Canada made it to where they're not accepting Americans in. Like, so Canada also kind of shut off their border. I I can't imagine with this corona thing going on, getting a visa is very easy, right? It was
no,
already
yeah,
a
for
pain in
sure.
the ass to get a visa anyways, but especially now I think they're probably being extra picky about who's going to get one and who has to go home.
Yeah, and so they got a little bit of a little bit of a disadvantage there. Again, I think Legia is a very competent player. Like he was playing it at big not that long ago, so it's not like he's too far removed from the game. But still, it's not somebody that you're constantly practicing with and having to step in. And so they did take out NV 2-1. It puts them in chaos in the upper bracket, and I think that's a fun matchup to keep an eye on because they could still come back and have to play MIBR in the grand final lower bracket if they make it through. But overall, a good start for Flashpoint. I didn't think the games were bad. I thought they were fun. I thought the way that they set up the desk, was nice, and it was
The mic
Monty and
drives me nuts though.
the mic.
Thorin's microphone, at least today, it's like constantly popping. I'm like, I don't know why, but
Yeah, so I didn't catch that if it was doing it, but it was I thought overall
overall it's
good.
great. I'm not gonna, hell, we have our own audio issues we gotta figure out every time it
Yeah.
seems. But yeah, you can't. For the first weekend, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was fine. Nothing,
And look,
nothing
they
that was
do have,
atrocious.
it is nice because even if the teams can be a little lackluster, like the talent is very good. And that does help to a certain extent with the overall production and the commentary in between matches. Like they got a good crew there. The games were competitive and good. So overall, that's really all you can expect, I think, from Flashpoint. And I think week 1 so far looks like an overall win.
Yep. And so speaking just of the leagues, of course, on the other side of it, you have ESL Season 11 starting. By the way, it's annoying that they're calling it Season 11. Can we admit that that's annoying and this is Season 1?
Can we just start? Can we start over?
Like, I think as the #1 esports podcast, we have the power and authority to make this ESL Pro League Season 1. Because you can't completely change your format and structure to the extent that they did and then still take credit for the first 10 seasons ahead of you that was nothing like this.
Well, I get that you don't want to also forget about the past, so this is a nice way to continue on maybe that tradition and having that there. You don't want to all of a sudden take away the Stanley Cup and bring in a new trophy when all of that stuff still did happen and it's a big part of Counter-Strike's history. But they could have maybe done ESL Pro League 1X or so, I don't know, something to kind of
Yeah.
reset
I'm
the
I'm
timer to
calling it
acknowledge.
I will call it ESL Pro League Season 11, but really Season 1.
That's fine.
That is the official name for it.
That's a good title. So it's not
Rolls
bad. And
off,
we do have it.
rolls off the tongue.
Do have the EU side kind of, I think the brackets are set there. For NA, do we have all the brackets set? I think it's just maybe it's just one overall bracket is what I'm thinking for the NA side, Tim. But we do have the brackets set. I mean, this is also going to be coming in here pretty quick. When's the first game?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
The 16th, right?
I'm all lost with time. I'm in Corona time. I'm working from home.
Yeah, you're working from home. You don't care. Why do you care about time? You just got to wake up 5 minutes before your shift starts, I guess, at work. Me, I'm the warrior here, okay? I'm the one who has to still go into work because my job sucks and so ill prepared. But I don't want to get started on that one. Don't get me started on that one, Anuj. The fact that the world is shutting down and working from home, and yet I still have to go into work because my work forgot to renew the license for the software I need to work on my laptop from home.
Can I tell you the one disappointing thing about me having to work from home, Tim? There's at least one negative here. Is they did say we have a scheduled meeting tomorrow, 10 a.m. They would like us to turn our webcams on for the meeting.
Oh.
And I was like,
what?
That defeats the purpose of working from home. I was like, I'm gonna be there shirtless. Y'all just gonna have to accept it.
They don't expect people to like dress up, right? Like, you're not in work attire.
I have no idea, but it's like it said on there, like if you have webcams, please have them on. They know I have a production facility basically in my office over here, so I'm not gonna get away with being like, oh yeah, no.
I don't have that. I don't have that.
No webcam. So
that's
yeah,
one chick sidebar here while we're still back on Corona, because that's bullshit to force you to use your webcam while working from home. Like, come on, guys, you know that we're all supposed to be sitting here naked. Like, just let me be.
Let me just be comfortable.
I do work with a chick, and she's not old. She's our age. She's 31 years old. She does not own a computer.
Oh, bro, we had like 5 people step up and say they didn't have one in our office. Like,
that is so weird.
We were just talking about that. I was talking about that with my boss earlier today, and I was like, yeah, we had some people that like they called me and they were like, hey, I need advice on what laptop to buy. And I was like, you're 24. How do you not have a computer at your house?
Like
you
just
don't have
even something like
use their phone or like tablets. It's kind of the vibe that I'm getting is they all have like tablets and stuff.
She's like, I use everything on my phone. And she has like an iPhone 6. And she's like, if I have to print off anything, I just do it at work. And I'm like, I mean, I guess if it works this far, that's great. But like, she was having to tell work, like, I don't have monitors. I don't have a mouse. Like, I don't have anything at home. Like, they're like, we'll just use an HDMI cable and plug it into your monitors. And she was like, I don't have any of that. I'm like, oh my. I was like, I have like a box of like 100 HDMI cables if you need one. Like,
I told him, I was like, I could run 3 people out of my office here if we needed to.
I have enough.
We could run.
I have enough computer. I have a gaming computer I built for my wife like 2 years ago, just sitting there collecting dust for when people come over to play. Like, it's really okay. Like, it's nuts. It just, I'll tell you what, out of all the Corona stuff, that is the most shocking thing I've taken away out of this whole thing. Is that there are people without home computers.
Yeah.
That's the most shocking thing.
It got me too when they said it. I was like, oh, did not see that coming. Like, it just kind of blew my mind. I guess that's the world that you and I live in. That's very not normal.
Yeah, no, sure. Not at all. So what were we talking about? ESL Pro League season 11, but really season 1?
Off. Yep, it is kicking off here. We have like the groups are set up for it. I don't know how much we want to get into this, honestly. Like, I mean,
not much.
We have the first round of matches that they are coming up tomorrow. Ensign, all these guys are live. Vitality and Astralis and Nip go live tomorrow.
This will be more fun to retro talk about it, like recap it.
Like I would almost rather let's like come back after a week of play and like talk about some good CS there. But again, this is a stacked event from the EU side. Like every group, I mean, shoot, just looking at some of these, you got Mouse, FaZe, G2, OG, all in a group. Astralis has a little bit of an easier group, but they still have
A
Vitality.
little?
Okay, it is easier.
That is
We don't.
that's a
We got.
cake.
They deserve it, right? If it goes by seeding. of some
Yeah,
sort, right?
I know,
Like,
because even Vitality made a roster change recently that everyone's kind of anticipating to really affect them, dropping Alex. So
yeah, that's going to be tough. That's really the one like true competitor in that group. ENCE hasn't proven to do that. Nip, too young to know. Spirit, we'll wait and see. Godsent looked really good in some of the qualifier matches that they've recently played in. But again, we'll have to kind of wait and see what they actually are. We don't assume they're going to be any sort of real competition for Astralis. So we do see Astralis walking away with Group A. Group B's again. I think that's probably the most competitive group. You could maybe throw in a tie there with C potentially, but having Complexity, Fnatic, Navi, Big, North, like those are all really, even Forza is like really teams that have been playing competitive CS for a while with their lineups, right? So you're going to get consistency, you're going to get good team play. Um, Group C, again, kind of the same sort of deal, like a lot of veteran players on that team. I'm actually probably most excited about C as we kind of look through this. But overall, we're going to have a fun time on the EU side. The NA side's a little lackluster in terms of the teams that are involved there. But the EU side really brings in like so much talent, and they really did get all the top tier talent from the EU side. So exciting to see what this league ends up being. I'm more curious to see if it feels any different, Tim. Like, is it going to feel any different than like leagues that we've seen in the past? Because, like you said, there have been 10 previous seasons of ESL. We did have the Face It leagues for a long time. It's
and
not like we kept up with them.
I was gonna say, I won't lie to you. We didn't care about those leagues until it
No,
came
we
to the
didn't.
playoffs.
We didn't. Like, the most interesting thing about the league so far has been the drama between the leagues.
Yeah.
Will that excitement and interest carry through this season? What are they doing to change that and make that a thing? I think the biggest issue is just the duration of these seasons being so short. It's just a blip on the radar when it comes to like how much we're going to be thinking about this league, right? Like it kind of pops up, it's here, it goes through, you have your championship, and boom, we're
Well, it's
done.
just so like the thing with traditional sports or even Overwatch League or Call of Duty League, part of the thing that makes the championship so exciting, and it doesn't matter if your team's in it or not, right? There's a reason we shut down to watch the Super Bowl or whatever, right? Whatever playoffs it is because these guys have worked 70% of the year to get to this point. It's over months and hundreds of games or, whatever, getting to their championship. It doesn't feel that way when your league is 3 weeks, 4 weeks long. It's just like, oh, okay, we're here. All right. Like
we're here, it's over,
odd.
it's done, and it like moves on. You go on to the next big event that you kind of look forward to. So I'm interested to see how they kind of change that narrative. How do they build up storylines when it's not that long? In fact, I think Blast Pro is still the winner of all the leagues, if you ask me, because that's a built up storyline with, the initial, I forgot the names of the stages, whatever they are, but we had the initial stage where people played through the Challenger series or whatever it was, and then they move on to like the championship series, and then you actually have like the grand final event that they're doing, and that builds a great storyline over a period of like 6 months where you see how these teams have got to that point. This is all going to be very quick and move along until we get to that coveted championship. But yeah, I'm more curious to see how they build interest throughout the season and if it feels any different than a CS league that we've been watching for the past 10 years.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see where it goes. I think there's also a tad bit of difference, the fact that these teams aren't double dipping in leagues, right? Like with Face It, ECS, and ESL, it was like Astralis would be playing in 2 different leagues on the same day. Something was like, well, okay, like it's hard for me to keep in order and care about which one I should really honestly care about, but we're looking forward to it. And of course, the more streams, more games means the more sports bets. And you know what, Anuj, with the coronavirus happening, there's not a whole lot of betting going on for us gamblers. So that's why Thrive Fantasy comes into play, because they do have esports now, and esports is not taking a break. So you go to Thrive Fantasy, you can download the app and enter the code TCR upon sign up. That will get you a free $10 for your first $10 deposit. So you'll walk away with 20. That's math. And then you can use that, gamble responsibly, become a millionaire off esports. And then that way, when the traditional sports come back, you can even have more money to blow. It's just that easy. So again, Thrive Fantasy, you download the app, use the code TCR at sign up. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Anuj, would you like to send it over to Nate?
Yes, I'm excited for this interview. Again, we've had Nate on the show before, and man, I really hope y'all enjoy this one.
All right, so here is Nate from Alt. So our next guest on the center ring, he is a reoccurring guest. He's been on before. I think like the second time ever, Anuj, that we've had a guest come back on the show.
And it's like recently, so we must be doing something right.
It's either that or they're just that desperate. But let's welcome to the show Nate from Alt. We talk about them a lot. So Nate, what is going on, buddy?
What's up? I'm so glad to be back on with you guys. Definitely a lot of fun. I was excited to get back on the show. Been a minute. I can't even remember when we did the last one, but we've been talking about getting back on the show, and the only reason I think we didn't was there was just things we couldn't talk about at the time. So, like since BlizzCon, I was like, yeah, we got some things to talk about. So I'm hyped. I'm hyped.
I think the last time we had you on the show had to have been right when your Overwatch League deal was announced, because then we were like,
right.
That makes sense. Come on the show. And then we've been waiting to have you on because we kind of always knew it was in the background looming that you'd be working with CDL, but it just was never public, and now it's public. And we were like, well, geez, let's get you on again and get an update. Like you said, we ran into each other at BlizzCon. You saw us get kicked out. The epic story of us getting kicked out. Nate was there. He witnessed it from the bird's eye view.
I love that part, man. So you're all trying to sneak into the owner's box and get the snacks, and I'm watching you. I was like, what snacks are they gonna get? What snacks are they gonna get? And then dude's like, you gotta go. You guys gotta go.
For the record, we didn't try to sneak in. We did sneak in. We were in the owner's box.
We had like a solid hour and a half there. It was the second time that we tried to sneak in where we got in trouble.
I couldn't believe my luck, because we were in there earlier, but I wanted a better view from up top to watch the team play. So I had this perfect eye line right into the box, and I was like, "Oh, that's Jim in the news. Oh, that guy's giving him some heat. Security, but he don't like these guys. Like, what's gonna happen?" and then somebody was like, "Oh, let's go get some snacks." So we came downstairs and just saw you like escaping right into the hall. So it's like perfect. So we love running into you guys, and always been listening to the show. And it's funny when people be like, "Oh, have you ever heard of this really fantastic esports podcast, the Center Ring? Have you heard of the Center Ring?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a great show. Totally agree with you. Really cool guys. Like, you should probably tell somebody else too, because I already know about it. But like, I hear you."
Well, I know, like, because we always bring you guys up on the show, especially like when talking of the history of Center Ring, because I still think you have to be one of the first people that I ever told that, like, oh yeah, I do an esports podcast. It's called the Center Ring, because we just happened to both be at MLG Columbus back in 2016. And that was like kind of right around when you really started hitting the ground running with Alt. And
well, that was the very first. I remember it very clearly. April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and that was exciting because it was the first real like public thing we were doing ever, and the first time people wore the Alt brand in public, quite honestly, at such a big, prominent event, and getting to be there was such a huge experience and transformative in the early days. And I think you were telling me I was like, oh, how many episodes you done? And you were like, oh, we've done like we're almost doing like 18 episodes. And I was like, okay, you're just kind of getting going. So now when I hear how many you've done now, I'm like, man, that was way back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I think we were on like episode like 16 or something back then, which is just crazy to think of how long ago that was. And it just happenstance that, I mean, you have to think all the chips that had to have fallen in order. Because I remember, because the only reason everyone went to the hotel bar that night is because, remember, it was like 15 degrees and snowing.
Yeah.
It was like freezing outside, so no one wanted to go bar hop. So everyone in the hotel, which we just happened to stay at the same hotel everyone else was staying at, was there. And then all these other pros and cool kids were hanging out, and we were at the bar, and we were like, hey, what's your name?
Like, totally.
It was pretty much what it was.
And it was freezing the next day, and you guys were waiting to get in with like a whole mess of people.
Yeah.
And I was just taking pictures of the line because I thought the line was crazy, mostly because it was so cold. And then I spotted you, and I was like, oh, what's up, Tim? And then I snapped a flick, and that was like the kind of like the beginning of our interaction, because then I had to like send you the picture.
Yeah, I was like, hey, what's your email? Okay. And I do too. Yeah. I remember this because that was at the time, and I still have that photo in my Google Drive. That was with Brandon when he was still on the show. Yeah. May he rest in peace. And I remember because you were like, oh, here, I'll take your picture. What's your gram? And I looked at Brandon. I was like, what's a gram? And he's like,
what is he selling?
Yeah, us? What is this? Is this drugs? And he was like, no, he's talking about Instagram. And I was like, oh, I definitely don't know what Instagram is. I don't have that.
Tim still doesn't know what Instagram is, though. That's the best part. We're just introducing Tim in the Instagram world of it.
I'm the most boomer millennial you'll ever meet.
Right.
And now look at where we've come. Like, fast forward 3.5 years later, and Tim and I go see your 50,000 square foot facilities, and we just got Elgato Stream Decks. So we have both really, really evolved and grown from where we came from. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun, because you'd always been like, oh, when we come out, we're going to visit. And we joked about this whole thing of like, when you see people at events and they're standing right in front of you, and like, we got to hang out sometime. And I'm like, I'm looking right at you. Like, what do you want to say? So you actually showed up. I'm like, hey, you ever in town? Like, the door's open to you. Come on through. And sure enough, it's like straight off the plane in town, going to BlizzCon, like roll right in. And that was like a ton of fun, man. I love to get to show you guys what we're up to in the studio. And then we got to see you at the show too, which was a blast,
No, it was like literally the first thing we did. We got to the hotel, we dropped our stuff off, we bought our Disneyland tickets, and we're like, all right, we'll go to Disneyland later. Let's go see ULT. Let's go see what's up. And I mean, that was the first time that we actually saw each other though since Columbus.
That's true.
And I remember because at Columbus, you were like, yeah, we just got this place out in Huntington Beach, and it's a warehouse. We don't really know what we're going to do with it yet. But we have like some storage units there too, and like containers. And I was like, oh, okay. And I remember like, yeah, we design clothes. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you got some storage containers and you got a warehouse.
Yeah. Next thing you know, you're designing for Overwatch League, and just like that. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that place is a fantasy factory over there that y'all got going. I mean, it's got everything from like an actual studio setup, and obviously your design studios are in there, and now even like it looks like a whole gaming center is what you guys kind of had going on there. And I remember Team USA was there while we were there. I think they were practicing that day at your guys' facility.
Oh, yeah.
And so
that was so rad. Like,
I think we blessed them with a TPR blessing.
Yeah. Sinatra's eating like Chipotle at the counter, and you guys are like, is that Team USA? Yeah, no, they went on and crushed it at BlizzCon, and they trained for a couple days, and that was a total, like, we were all kind of crowded downstairs there for a minute. That was really funny.
Did you get a chance to see them after they won by chance?
Well, so I was watching them when they won, right? And then crazy thing was, Space actually like shouted out Ult on the stage. And I was like, what? Like, that was huge, like watching them win. And then he's like, doesn't have to thank anybody, he was just excited. He was like, yeah, thank you to Ult for hosting us. And like, that is rad. Like, that's
badass.
like
Yeah.
what, that's, and I told him too, and I was like, or look, my mom showed me like Michael Phelps, in the Olympics. And like, this is the equivalent for me, like having this level of professional game athlete in my studio, like training for such a massive, World Cup at BlizzCon, and like just that's my sports experience that I always wanted, like, and that I get to share that and experience that and watch them win and just make them feel a little bit of pride in the stuff they get to wear and share a little bit of that experience and memory, and part of like such an incredible thing around BlizzCon. Like all of that was just really special, and it's just like that kind of stuff just happens, in the studio, and we get really great people in there. It's all part of like what inspires you to keep going, because it feels connected to like the front edge of the culture. Like, yeah, we don't just make clothes. It's like, no, we're just part of this whole thing, and it's so much bigger than all of us. And it's like, now you guys are and us, like we're all weaving together. Like that whole story is just kind of like evolving, over the last 4 going into 5 years. It's it's like it all starts somewhere, right? Like you had to record the first
For
podcast,
sure.
Well, I think it's also too like a testament to where it's like you don't see it very often, and this is just to pump. I'm going to pump both of our tires here for a minute. It's like in esports, you don't see like a podcast or content creation or a brand like you guys last very long. Like you see them and then they're there for a year or two, or a podcast will do 30 or 40 episodes and then they're gone, right? They get preoccupied. It's not a hit right away. And so they move on to the next venture, whether it be in esports or not. So I think it's just kind of crazy that it's like we're somewhat old in the scene, like only been around for like 5 years, but old.
Sure. Well, I was at CDL LA this past weekend, and I was talking to some of the owners about this. It's a very similar thing of like, it's good to see you. It's good to see you still doing your thing. It's good to know a familiar face in this industry who's like wildly tenacious, like just so ravenously attacking the opportunity ahead and like never giving up and just keep pushing forward and like evolving, adapting, like pushing on. And like you find like-minded people, like you guys and some of these other folks that you do see continuing, right? And you're like, well, how'd you do it? Did you home run right out the gate, or what's the deal? Like, how is that possible? And it's like, well, I just kept showing up. I kept learning. I kept
sneaking into owners' boxes.
Yeah, right. Like some of that stuff, like, you got to get all crafty with it, Plus, like, you guys look way cooler in the owner's box than the owners, so there you go.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
We were the only ones eating, which I think that's what gave us up, is we were the only ones that made a beeline to the food.
Yeah, that really was.
Yeah.
And like we grabbed too much, like if we should have grabbed like one hot dog, but we were like double fisting with drinks, acting like we had never eaten before, and that was a pretty.
Oh no, I know.
One thing I want to talk about, obviously, so we're talking about Overwatch League, and then you talk about how that evolution and growth has come from there. Well, like the next chapter in Ult's story is obviously the new relationship that y'all have built with CDL and are doing the official merchandising for them. And so kind of take us through that a little bit. Like, was this just kind of part of the long-term plan, or was this, hey, we love what you guys are doing, let's replicate this here with CDL?
Sure. No, it's a great question. I think when the first franchise league with Owl came up, like it just felt like such a necessary, exciting thing to do. Like there was no way we weren't going to get involved or like really fight to get involved. And I think because we really just pursued it so intensely, then we had that opportunity, and we loved it. We did some really incredible work within the Overwatch League, and we still are, that I feel is like, really unique, expressive stuff that, nobody was doing like reinterpreting the brand marks, and like nobody was really even thinking that way. And so the league office relationship developed really well. When Call of Duty League started to really become like that's happening, we had the benefit of incredible relationships at the league level, and we were able to really attack that one early and transition into that league. And fortunately for us, like a lot of the leadership carried over into the league office, and we have built a really great reputation on campus with those people. And when it came time to really commit to it, we actually we had learned a ton right throughout the season of Overwatch, and it was perfect for us to just be like, this makes sense, we understand it, we've learned a lot, we have great data, let's really commit to this as early as we can and get in there as quickly as we can to like really build these lines and do something that celebrates our brand, in the process, which is like such a huge challenge when you think about the magnitude of something like CDL and just how enormous it is and how much investment is attached to it and how these big owner personalities are part of it, and just like that game's legacy in this country and globally is so huge. Is that really owning that responsibility? It could be a little bit intimidating at first, but then you're like, okay, like they're looking at us and our brand and saying like, what do they bring to the table? And I think we are unique in that way because, by comparison to some of the bigger entities, whether it's a team or a manufacturer or whatever, like, we are fairly unique in that conversation. So, it's like, let's take what we learned season 1 Overwatch, let's roll that into how do we really do something that celebrates our brand and helps drive uniqueness and regionality to these home markets. And like, I mean, there's very few other brands, if any, that have that opportunity to take what they learned and apply it to CDL and, get to continue to collaborate with them. It just made so much perfect sense. It's like, way different, man. Like,
well, in terms of even like design style, right? Like your audience, although gamers, different type of gamers for the most part. So how different was that process?
Well, hugely different, right? Because I always loved going to Call of Duty events, CWL events, like over the years, and the kids have good sensibilities, man. They know the right shoe game, they know the right watch game, they know the right like streetwear brands, and like these kids show up wearing the right kit, and so you gotta be able to acknowledge that, and you gotta be able to say like the Call of Duty community knows what's up when it comes to fashion and design. Like you gotta acknowledge like their sensibility is quite elevated, and like their appetite for really fast, progressive types of modern design. So I felt very comfortable in that space. I think League, like Overwatch League is so new, such diversity, big, beautiful colors, like all of that. Like it was more about the idea of the community than that there was a scene to design for, And I think like we took a ton of inspiration for, okay, Overwatch is all about expressiveness and dynamics and color and like reinterpretations of things and like just kind of going for it, where Call of Duty was way more established and a lot more eyeballs were on it, So the customer expectation to me was like, oh, we can bring some fashion into this, right? Which is something that I love, So immediately it felt like very familiar and very comfortable, and felt like I was kind of walking into a super exciting design space where it's like, this is our identity too. Like this is our voice as a brand. Like as well, like this is very familiar. And we fell in love early with E United, getting to sign that. That was like our first team deal we ever did, and we still are with E United to this day. And getting to follow their journey and to be a part of their story, to be coming back-to-back champs, seeing the last CWO event at UCLA, like watching the hoist the trophy and be like, what's going to happen now? CDL is like game on the next day, so getting to be a part of all of that, like, built so much just years of inspiration for, like, we're going to bring all of that into what we designed for this Call of Duty League, like everything, we have to do this. There was no like other alternative. It was like, we absolutely need to do this. So thankfully everybody on the team felt that way, and still, like, I mean, we've only released our first collection, but there's like 3 more that we're cooking up, and they're all rad. Like, they're even more progressive, and I think that's the fun part, is like, we introduced this idea of Bolt is this modern fashion brand in the gaming space, and like, we have a voice about lifestyle, and we're going to contribute unique stuff, and thankfully the league is super supportive of that, and they inspire us, and we're grateful that we inspire them, and we're going to keep challenging ourselves, and can't wait to release all this other new stuff and just keep having fun with it.
Well, if Corona doesn't kill us first, hopefully we get to see plenty of the new tilt shift drops over here at the Dallas CDL event coming up in a few weeks. So looking forward to seeing that tilt shift in person. It looks pretty badass online. Really, really enjoyed the new work.
Right on. Thank you. Yeah, we'll send you some of the 3D glasses that you can look at the designs, and they kind of like pop off the garment when you
That's awesome.
when you look at rocking with the glasses. Yeah.
Hey, so you brought up E United there and everything, and just with CDL, because obviously working with Overwatch League, there's some crossover there, but was it also just less stressful knowing that, hey, some of these E United, it's like, the players with Call of Duty as well. So was that any less stressful? Like, throwing a name out there, but like my best friend Clay, right? We're super tight.
I know you carry Clay. I hear you talk about carry Clay all the time. I get it, And when he came on the show, of course, you had to bring all that up and like, put him on blast.
He doesn't like talking about it, but
yeah, for sure. I think watching E United split into all the squad kind of going Chicago, Florida, Minnesota, Dallas, like seeing Atlanta, seeing these guys kind of become such important parts of the formation of the new teams and what the league would really become. And I think it was for me, it was really beautiful because like your fandom of the E United kind of champ squad was now such an integral part of like all these other teams. And so kind of overnight you're a fan of all these other teams too. And that's what I did love about Overwatch League. I was mostly a fan of the league and the idea of the league, but with knowing the players, getting to see their style on all these other rosters, you can DM these guys and they're going to be like down for what you're going to do in the market. Like that part really felt special, felt personal. And I enjoyed that. Like, designing around the player personalities is something that I think is really inspirational, and like celebrating these territories that they're in now, I think it's a big part of that story that, is just open for us to explore. And yeah, so knowing the players is huge, man. It really does inspire you, watching them compete on stage, watching them wear stuff that you designed, seeing them respond to it and be like, that's cool, that's dope, I love that. Like all of that is really meaningful in like how we internalize and process like the design choices that we make, because seeing those pro players wear the stuff, like as fans first, like being a fan of them, being a fan of the game, being a fan of the league, like that's huge, man. That's like one of the greatest feelings is getting to interact with the players.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's got the best logo in CDL?
Who's got the best logo? I got to say that, and this is not by popular opinion at all, but like I personally have always loved the Ultra. Just Ultra, like just the word, like the crazy vibrant like nature of it. It's just like powerful, bold. It just like attacks you right in the face. And like a lot of people don't feel that way. A lot
It's
easier than my
definitely
studio.
grown on me. I'll tell you that, because I was 50-50 on first. I was like, man, what does this have to do? And like with anything. And then it's just like
Yeah,
it stands out. The color schemes that they use on Ultra's logo, I think, are fantastic. Like they just make it pop. And
for
yeah, no,
sure.
I agree. That one's grown on me
We
for
talked
sure.
about it when we did our rankings of all the brands for CDL, that Ultra just sat in a boardroom. Some dude threw out the word Ultra for a team name, and they were like, what does that mean? And he was like,
Yo,
whatever
that was
you
me,
want.
Tim. I would
And
totally
what's
have been
whatever
that
you want it
dude.
to mean.
Well, I think, look, I think that one is really, honestly, like, to use a design word from Tim, it's clean. You know, it's really, like, it shows confidence. Like, some of the other logos, like, can get really complex. You know, like, love the Huntsman, think the Huntsmen are incredible. Like, it's by comparison, a lot more complex. You know, the Mutineers, definitely complex. Like, Surge, super complex. Like, you know, and when you start thinking about how that translates into on-body design, the more intricate the logo is to articulate on the body, like it will break down, or it's more difficult to work with. It disrupts the composition of what you're doing. Like, so something that's really clean and powerful, like Ultra, in my opinion, translates really well. And to Anuja's comment, like, the color story that they're playing with is just awesome, you know. So I really love that one. You know, but I think, like, there's a ton of diversity. And then, like, the one that I thought I liked the least, like, I had a bunch of questions on, like, the Gorillas. I was like, what is this? And, like, we work super closely with them, and I think it's through their style and tone and attitude. And, like, I live in LA, that's my LA team, right? Like, they kind of identify with the East Side and this whole, like, kind of gritty aspect of LA, like the street culture side of LA. Like, I love that. Like, I identify with the attitude of that logo and that brand, that team brand, like, a ton. So I think you fall in love with, you know, the style and the attitude of the logos, not just like the way they look on the surface. So, you know, I think, like, part of it too is, like, when they're crushing and they're winning, it's like, you just want to wear the Huntsman, like, you know, you want to wear that, like, because they're such a rad squad. Or, like, you're friends with Clay and you want to wear what he's got. So the Crown Vampire looks super killer and you want to design with it. So, you know, I think all of it is really fun. Like, it's a huge inspirational sandbox, you know, but I mean, I would definitely go with Ultra personally.
Love it.
So I know you are very, you have that artistic vision, you're a designer, all that fun stuff. So I got to ask your opinion on one thing here. Was your breath just taken away by the new 100 Thieves drop? From an artistic point of view, what am I missing?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like, I think, like, I got a ton of respect for what they're building over there, you know, and my fellow LA natives, right? And, you know, when I think about, like, the context and the landscape of, like, we're all trying to chip away and build this category called gaming lifestyle, and we all have a point of view and we all have a design aesthetic for what that means to us. And we're bringing our community with us, right, on that journey. You know, I got to say, like, there was a ton of hype. You know, they do great marketing, so they get your attention. I mean, but it was like I think it was a little one note, it was a little flat. Like, it felt like there wasn't a deep narrative kind of buried in there that I could extract. Like, there wasn't really much beyond the surface for me to, like, really dig into the story and, you know, the heritage and the legacy or whatever they were trying to communicate. So, you know, I see kids wearing it and it can look pretty cool, but, you know, I just felt like it kind of didn't go as deep as they could have been, you know? So,
Well,
I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's like, you know me, or like, you've known me for a long time. And when I started TCR, in my vision, I always wanted to start a brand. I just didn't realize all I needed was MS Paint.
Hey, yo, I think that there's truth in that. You know, but look, you got your buddy Anuj, he can crank on that computer, man. So, I mean, look, I'm down to help you guys if you want to chop it up, but, you know, I mean, Anuj, man, how you feel? You think you can home run some designs or what? Like, were you going to help your buddy out or what?
I'm just going to let y'all know. I live in the lab 24/7, okay? I've been pumping out ideas nonstop for 4 years waiting for something. And so, you know what? I'll slip you a couple of our designs. Tell me what you think,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Yep.
maybe, just maybe, we might have something there.
Well, look, I know you were kind of like running your mouth when you visited the studio. You're like, oh, we got to do some merch. And I was like, we don't call it merch for one, the news, but we got to do some apparel, and what should it be? I'm like, are we really doing this right now? Like, I'm just trying to walk you around the space. You're trying to pitch me on like designing stuff. I'm like, come on, the news. So look,
Look.
I know you got ideas, man. We all we all got some ideas. I'm always down. I'm down to see what you got going. And like, look, I love your guys' attitude and style. So, like, I mean, send me what you got, man.
We're gonna
I'm
make it
always
happen.
looking for
We're
it.
gonna make it happen.
Yeah. One way or
Designs
another.
coming tonight. Tonight.
Okay. Yeah,
And I will say-
refresh my inbox. Yeah.
And I will say, because a lot of our listeners always ask when the TCR alt collab is coming out, because we always pimp you guys out on the show. So I know they want it, but I will reiterate from the last time you were on the show. My issue with alt is I can't relate, and this is just fashion in general. I look at these models, and they're all gorgeous, in shape, nothing wrong in life, not an imperfection on them.
Yeah.
I need someone like me who can't really
Yeah.
seem to get his hairstyle right, has a dad bod, doesn't really like his jeans definitely aren't the right size.
Like we had the dad bods before the kids, okay? So like
Yeah.
we were
leave
prepared.
Tim, how you going to leave out the mustache? All right? How you going to leave that out when you break it down like that? You got to throw that one in.
It is true.
You know?
Here's the thing. I like think of what a generic white guy named Tim would look like, and I am that definition to a T.
But you had the stash,
But I had this,
and now there's personality.
right. It is weird. We've always talked about this because Nate knew the man before the stash, right? He knew old Tim. He knew uncool, unhip Tim. He knew me when I didn't have a mustache.
You know what, though? Look at it, man. Like, I would, like a magnet. Like, I immediately was like, this is my dude. He's cool. He's fun. He's confident. He gets it. Like, I can talk to this guy. Like, he knows what's up. Like, he's dialed in. I mean, and look, that alone has survived 4 years of just knowing each other, right? So
That is true.
I mean,
it's like I tell my wife.
Anybody else, right? Like anybody else, they're just trying too hard, And that's what I think. Like you bring the confidence that a lot of people would otherwise be like, oh man, like I gotta look right, and like what does that even mean? Like, and I think you just being yourself.
Yeah.
And that's way cooler. That's like the coolest thing you could ever be. Is just be who you are, man. And like that's what I'm all about.
I tell my wife, because people are like, man, how'd you guys get together? Because she's like way hotter than me, right? And I tell her, it's like, because I'm sexy fat. And she's like, what the hell does that mean? And I always explain, it's like, I was just fat enough to where it's like you wouldn't instantly turn me away, right? But I was also funny enough to where you were like, okay, I could work with this.
There's something there.
I could work with it.
Yeah. Well, you got like a regimen. You got the regimen. You got the balance, man. Like, isn't life all about balance? And like, you figured out your formula, man. So, like, good for you. Most of them other people, they haven't even figured it out yet, right? So, I mean, you're a step ahead, and that's all you need sometimes is just to be one little step ahead.
It's very true. Very true. So what else then do you guys have going on before we wrap up this shindig?
Oh, well, world domination, right? Like, there's so many places that we want to go. There's so many things I want to do. Like, there's so many ideas, too many for a day. And you just keep showing up. You keep doing the work. Like the team grows, like it spirals out like its own little planet. And,
how many employees do you have now?
Enough. Enough to do the work. Like, I think that's the most important part is like, you got to pay attention to what the brand needs and where it needs to go. And like, when you got people from all parts of the world, like trying to get you to go where they are, and you got other companies looking at you, like saying, how can we advance this thing? And you got really brilliant people. Like, it takes a team. It's absolutely like a huge amount of a team effort to make something like a brand succeed, especially in such a raw emerging space like where we are, and I'm just excited, man. I think like the last 4 years was just like getting to the starting point, and I'm very grateful for everybody involved to get us to this point, but it feels like the beginning. Like this feels like the beginning point, you know? And yeah, we had to put in work and earn a lot of trust and respect from a lot of folks along the way. But, you know, I feel like what's next is everything I ever wanted it to be. And now that opportunity is real. And like, I take that seriously. So, you know, that and just like being able to step out of your own head and like have fun with your friends, like come on shows like this, like hang out with guys like you, like learn to collaborate and challenge each other and just like go with things. Like just go for it, you know, like make some noise. You know, I enjoy that kind of stuff. So I guess you'd say like we're getting geared up to make a bunch of noise, right? And like have some fun with it.
I agree. It's just all about having fun. So for all of our listeners, you can go bother Nate and Ultimate, tell them to collab and work with us on Twitter at Ultimate. Did you have to pay for that one, Nate?
I'll take you to lunch next time you come into town. How about that?
That's good. That's good. Did you have to pay for at Ultimate, or was that not taken?
Oh man, that's my dude Hung. He's got some friends, and yeah, sometimes you just have to have some good friends. Is all I'm gonna say.
So you have the clean at Ultimate, and then Nate, your personal Twitter is N8. Oh.
Yeah.
O.
Yeah, but how are you going to pronounce it? You got to be like, NATO.
NATO. I know. You know what's funny is I have you in my phone as N8.
Perfect.
So that's
perfect. There you go.
Exactly how you have my phone. So go ahead to our listeners, go support Ultimate, support Nate, bother them about working with us. Anything else, Anuj?
Hey, Nate, we should hang out sometime.
Hey, yo, we're doing it right now, man. Come on.
I'll send you
like that.
I'll send you a Google invite.
Don't do that. Tim, don't send me no invites, man.
I'll send you. We'll get it on the calendar. We'll hang out sometime.
Bro, come on, man. Why'd you got to do that? We're doing this now, man. We've been doing this for an hour.
All right, buddy. Well, this was
Have
fun.
a good night, dude.
And best of luck with everything in the future.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. I had a blast.
All right, and there he is, Nate from Ultimate. What a good dude.
Dude,
the best of dudes.
That was, I love those guys so much. And I am Tim. I am grinding right now in the lab as we speak. We're gonna make something happen.
The hot drops, the hot merch.
The hot drops. New merch. I feel like we're creative people, don't you? Like we have some decent ideas. Like
yeah,
decent. You know, they might not be terrible. Might not be the best, but it might not be terrible.
Oh, could work. It could work. Maybe.
I'm pretty sure we got Church Hot trending on Twitter one day.
I got Church Hot. We came up with Church Hot. We came up with Yikes of the Week. Got some other stuff in our bag. We can figure it out.
Nobody's ever thought of clutch or kick.
No, clutch or kick was a 100%.
An over-under type like setup. Please.
100% original idea. So maybe one day real soon, we can start working with Alt and collab. That's a very business thing to say. It's collab.
Sounds good.
It's a very professional. Yeah, it's a fancy way of saying work with.
Yeah.
But we should collab with Alt one day soon, hopefully, and live the dream. Live the dream. All right, let's get into some e-news real quick, though, as we wrap up the show. Talked a lot of e-news kind of throughout the show, of course, with the corona and coronavirus and everything that's been taken out. One thing, though, we did not mention at the beginning of the show, Nuge, and that was the CSGO major coming up here at the end of May. It's the same weekend as DreamHack Dallas, so it's on that same calendar trajectory of it's sort of far away, but not really. Like it's
close enough to where you should be nervous.
Yeah, close enough to where hey, people are gonna start booking travel, and what do we need to do to get ahead of this? Well, it might not be up to ESL if the thing's going on, because now you have the city government of Rio, which is Brazil, where it's all being held, is saying that they will cancel any licenses for big events. Of course, things like the major and all of that in the city. So that's not official yet, but I mean, if you're talking that, it's like, what? How often has this, since this virus started, has someone said, "Well, we're discussing it," and then it doesn't happen, right? Like,
No, and there's like a big difference between obviously like a DreamHack Dallas event and the major in Rio. 'Cause
I
the
agree.
major in Rio
DreamHack
is gonna
Dallas is
have
way more important.
way more important, but not bigger, right? And the people that are going to DreamHack Dallas are probably from the DFW Metroplex. Let's count Austin and Houston as part of that. You know, for the most part, they would drive up, but it's primarily local, right? The major, you're booking travel now for a place like Brazil, and it's not going to be only local people at those types of events. It's people from all over the world traveling to see a major. So, yeah, I mean, it's not looking good, and probably happening sooner than later.
Scream's brother. How do you say his name?
Navarra?
Sure. If we agree on it, then I'm okay with it. Will be joining Heretics. Didn't know Scream had a brother.
Yeah, no, he's been like playing. Obviously, been playing for quite some time to be at this level now, but he's been talked about for some time. Maybe a little premature from what I'm hearing, but he is like ranked 1 or 2 right now, also in the FPL circuit. To get into Pro League, so he'll also be obviously now being on a pro team. Will get into Pro League. Kind of crazy. Scream's still out there looking for a team, and his brother hops onto a squad. That's got to be a little. Obviously, he's excited for him, and he's only rooting for him and wishes him the best. But I bet Scream's out there like, come on, give me another chance.
But was Scream willing to go to a team like Heretics? There's also that side of the coin as well.
Yeah, we'll see Scream in Valorant sooner than later.
Yeah.
Munzie,
I never.
Munzie,
My
this is
brother.
crazy.
Well, I'll just on the brother topic. My brother and I played games together too, but I always dominated him.
But if y'all played StarCraft, he would destroy you.
Oh, my little brother would destroy me on StarCraft. I'm talking older brother though. Little brother was never big into FPSs.
Yeah,
My older brother, he always tried keeping up, but
I bet if y'all played like 1-on-1 like Zelda, he'd probably.
yeah, he probably could. But FPS, that was my territory. So it's cool to see those families sticking with it.
Munzie joining FPL at 14 years old. Like, he just got the invite. I believe that was announced today. Navi junior player. Think of yourself at 14 years old and how crazy it is to see how advanced, from an in-game development standpoint at that age, when you're like just kind of touching the brink of what you're able to do.
14 is the prime age to start kicking it up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, before that, you're playing games and you might be good, but you're not like honing your skills, right? You're not learning the competitive side of it. You're just naturally talented, or it's, whatever. But like, I remember, because when I was 14, we played so much Halo, and we played a lot, but again, there was no FPL, right? There was, what's that old chat system called?
IRC?
Yeah. There was when like we'd go in and find Halo matches that way, and do like random tournaments on BG, like Battlegrounds. You never knew the skill level you were going up against. We would dominate one team thinking, guys, we're the number one team in the world. Like, we just dominated this other team. They're calling themselves a team, guys. In reality, they were probably just some 4 random dudes that were high playing Halo together. So it's crazy to see like this kid being 14 and now you're in the FPL playing with other pro caliber players.
What are you, like 8th grade in 14? Roughly?
No.
Around there.
Well, yeah, okay. I was always younger, so yeah, probably. I was on my birthday's in June,
way,
so
right around there. You think about it's like prime playing time too. This kid's got 4 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I was playing with pro caliber players at 14, kid's gonna be a machine by the time he's 18. Like, that's gonna be unbelievable. So what a crazy opportunity for him. Good for Munzie. In Valorant news, I don't know how I feel about it. 5 out of the first 10 characters at launch for Valorant will be behind a paywall, most likely with a battle pass type situation going on.
If it's a battle pass situation, I can kind of live with it if they're early unlocks. Like, it would suck to have to get to level 100 of a battle pass to unlock a character before the next season, and then like maybe you don't get there if that's how the situation works. If it's like League of Legends also where playtime comes into play and you accumulate points to be able to buy the characters that way, that's how it is in Apex Legends also, right? Like you don't get the new character as they come out. You accumulate those points
Right.
for playing the game. To be hardcore, like from a competitive standpoint, I hate the idea that other people may have characters that I have not yet unlocked in a game, especially just because they're 14 years old and they have all day to play, and I'm having to grind out weekend by weekend just to unlock a character. So it doesn't like sit overly well, but it all depends on how they implement it. How hard is it to actually unlock these 5 characters?
Yeah. So I won't lie. I did not hear about this until I literally read the sentence out loud 2 seconds ago. Because you know me, I don't keep up with pre-alpha access news. That's your department. That's not me. This would have been a yikes of the week for me. Because I hate it. I absolutely hate the idea of having payable characters at launch. And I understand games have done it and they've gotten away with it. There are also games that have done it that have failed miserably. Icons, the fighting game for PC, that's now like under development under new names and new management. They tried that shit and it failed miserably because it's free to play. Sure, that's cool. But then when you're wanting to get in and try the game out, you're like, you're asking for money at launch? Now, again, this is backed by Riot, so it's a completely different ball game. But still,
what if it's under a battle pass type situation where we've seen in several games?
I'm still not a fan of the battle pass day one when a game comes out, right? Like, let's get your feet wet here, boys. Like, let's figure out what your game's going to be. Let's figure out who wants to play the game before you start puffing your chest out saying, yeah, what's up? Here's 5 characters that are completely developed, by the way. Like, a 10 playable character list isn't outrageously huge. So to have half of that behind a paywall, a little ridiculous.
I think it's a little rough from the standpoint of also if you're trying to be a hyper competitive game to not have all the tools available to you as a player early on, right?
At least at launch. Now, Rainbow, right? They come out, like they just announced for year 5, like with Rainbow, I think it's 6 new operators. So I totally get it. But if you're going to come out here day one and say, yeah, half of our guys are behind a paywall or even a battle pass, not cool. I don't like it. Again, I know I'm old man yelling at clouds in this situation, but I don't like it.
Again, I get where you're coming from, so I can't even argue it too much because I ideally wish
I will be the first Valorant pro that only has the 5 free characters.
That doesn't get the
I will
pass.
never buy the other ones.
I think this is more of a let's wait before it becomes the yikes. Let's wait and see how they implement it. Like, is it bad? Is it good? How much does it cost? Hell, I'm probably just gonna buy them outright.
I mean, I'm gonna buy. Oh, of course, I'm. Listen, bro. I mean, we're adults. We make like what, $1 million
easily.
Like,
easily.
Well, I'm past that.
You don't look at money when you're over 30.
Yeah, it just
doesn't matter.
Once you get a salary, I mean, a salary is instant.
Done.
Like, whatever.
You're rich
so
forever. Yeah.
I don't need to waste my time with a battle pass. I will just buy, because it's also free to play, right? Well, has it been announced if it's free to play?
Yeah, Valorant?
Yeah,
it's free to play.
It's free to play. So in my brain, I'm thinking I can at least buy $60 worth of in-game crap before
Such a crappy way of looking at it, but it's so true.
It is, right? Like, I know it defeats the purpose of free to play, but I look at free to play games, I'm like, okay, I have a $60 window here before I start feeling bad.
Yeah, until I'm like, now I'm spending money.
Yeah, now I'm in the hole.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the red. So that's where I'm at.
Our favorite brand, 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves, phase up.
They just teamed up with
find both of them.
Chipotle, and it's kind of badass, man. Like, they all have their own burritos named after them that you can go in and order, and it is like what they order on the menu, or like what Nate Shot's favorite order is, or Brook or Courage or all these guys, like they're partnered up with them in that sense to where you can go in and you order their meal. And so you know what? That's freaking cool. I just had Chipotle today. I didn't have one of their meals, I gotta admit, but a cool little opportunity, like something, a neat way to team up, and good on them for getting that done.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of cool. Like I heard the Courage one is like this big ass beefy burrito that they make for you, and then they throw it in the trash and give you another Courage burrito with like half the content in it.
You're never gonna let him be. Never gonna let the man be.
Gotcha. I got you, Courage.
Tim's still mad for COD. This could take some time.
Again, I'm brave enough. I will fight for COD on this one.
I understand.
As they are just getting cucked by Courage, I will fight for the COD community here. No, that is cool. So can I go into a Chipotle and say, give me the nade shot? Will they know?
Like if you're on their website, it has it like listed. You click on it, and it's.
Do they really? Like even here, this isn't like LA. Chipotle.
Tim, you were like really looking for some extreme details on this.
Well, we are journalists, and I just want to have proper. I don't see anything on their website about 100 Thieves.
It's all falsified.
What a broken sponsorship. I would ask for my money back. But Chipotle is delicious. And that's a free ad right there. We don't do free ads here on TCR, but for Chipotle,
we'll do it.
I'll do a free ad. I will do a free ad for you. All right, man. What an awesome show, though. What a great show. Thanks for Nate from Alt for coming on. Again, if you're a listener, hit us up in Discord about what we need to do to get that sponsorship going with Alt. Get some TCR collab going. Why don't you go ahead and bother them? Kick the tires a little bit. Maybe, just maybe, it will work. You never know. If you try hard enough, believe. If you build it, they will come. We'll be back on Wednesday, though. Wednesday night, because we stream all our shows the night before releasing them. For Thursday's episode, we'll talk, ESL Pro League?
That'll have kicked off. Some Corona updates, I'm sure.
Something there. So
probably, well, you know what, Tim? I'll let some of it be a surprise.
Oh, it'll be a surprise. It'll be a surprise. Definitely because we definitely know what we're talking about.
100%.
It's just going to be a surprise. So that will be for Thursday's episode. In the meantime, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. If you listen on iTunes or anything, leave a review. 5 stars preferred, but whatever you want. We do read them, so we appreciate it. Again, join our Discord, be a part of that conversation and all that fun stuff with all the other listeners of The Center Ring. For Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.